Known as the Scranton Strongman, king of the bench press, and the big black bear of Scranton, Big Jim Williams was born on February 25th, 1940, in Scranton, Pennsylvania. With elbow wraps as his only piece of equipment, on February 9th, 1972, Williams bench pressed 675 pounds, thus making him the first man to officially bench press over 300 kilos. Before this accomplishment, Williams was an individual who had to overcome the trappings and literal imprisonment of the institution. Growing up in the hardscrabble coal town of Scranton, PA, was not easy. The Scranton Strongman came of age in a precarious time in American history. Specifically, we are talking about the tumultuous shift from the cultural naivete of the 1950s to the social upheavals of the 1960s. Inside of this period of change, young Jim lost his way. In 1961, at 21 years of age, Williams was found guilty of assault and battery and strong-arm robbery. The wristwatch and $80 that he took from another man cost Williams 10 years of incarceration in Rockview State Correctional Facility. With a Jailhouse Strong successful mindset, William turned his imprisonment into an opportunity for the physical expression of self-improvement. Specifically, Jim found the pig iron and he started to train with intensity and consistency. Actually, Williams implemented a method of high-volume training which is in accordance with the scientific findings of German volume training and the Russian protocols of Boris Shiko. Unsurprisingly, the dedicated man in the prison yard was able to make discoveries well ahead of the lab coats in the science lab. Before prison officials bought into the belief that weights should be removed from the yard, prisoners could find simple but workable equipment. Like many cons, Jim looked at the pig iron as a privilege, and he behaved himself to get access to this lifeline. He made the most of the Spartan setting of the prison weight room. For example, when he needed a weight belt to lift, he would tie a couple of towels around his waist. Williams focused on basic barbell and dumbbell moves, and in an example of his high-volume training methods, he would often bench press twice a day. The training approach implemented by Williams was instrumental in developing the Jailhouse Strong pig iron program and the rest pause method, both of which are discussed in our first book, Jailhouse Strong, which can be picked up by clicking the link in the description. This approach worked for Williams. In spite of the less than ideal prison food, when Jim walked away from Rockview, he was almost 290 pounds. He was said to have a 60-inch relaxed chest and 23-inch cold measured arms. Basically, he was built like a brick shithouse. While he was primarily known as a bench presser, he threw up some big numbers in the squat and deadlift too. With only knee wraps in competition, he squatted 865 pounds and deadlifted 725.1 pounds. His official total was 2,240. Unofficially, he had some astronomical lifts. For instance, it is said that he bench pressed 705 pounds at the York gym. Williams also practiced some specific warm-up and recovery activities. He would ride his 10-speed to serve as his warm-up and to aid in recovery. He was also an advocate of hydrotherapy in the form of a swimming hole near his home and frequenting local steam baths. Unfortunately, Williams found himself back behind bars due to a charge of counterfeiting, among other charges. During his final period of incarceration, Jim made spiritual and intellectual changes. He became a born-again Christian, and he took up art, reading, and writing. He completed charcoal sketches of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jacques Cousteau, among others. Upon his release, he wrote a book about black history in the Northeast called Northern Fried Chicken. Later in his life, he became known as a kind and giving patriarch in his community. For more of these stories from the history a physical culture. Click subscribe.